Hi guys, and I am back to do another Kwanzaa spread today. Um, it's been a while because of a couple of other things. I will get back to you in a sort of a separate little vlog, I hope. Because you know, if you watch my channel, you will have seen that I did a rather large vlog about Shakti energy last week, and it seems to be working. So I'm still, kind of in between ideas about whether I should vlog separately about that or just do a check-in, and you will figure it out. I don't want to sound scary or anything. So, anyway, hormones, that type of stuff. So, that took me out of the nice continuity of my Kwanzaa. So, I had to take 2 days out of there. And, but here I am. Yes, we are back. And the theme for day 3 is collective work. Now, if you remember anything about my day 2, you will feel the way I felt about this, which is like, what am I supposed to be thinking of these? So, really useful cards, again, really wonderfully instructive and sort of insightful, because, of course, you need really good questions. You need to sort of have a frame of reference for the cards to fall into. And I'm really discovering that at the moment, because I did work with spreads before this. I have always worked with spreads at some point or other, but I have also liked to just do 3-card draws or mind, body, soul or some type of thing like that. And also, I always used to invent my own spreads and just generally mix in things from different decks and, use runes and what have you. Combine all sorts of types of atmosphere to, get me more of a general impression of what it was that I was dealing with, or, just in concerning a situation much more in a general fashion. So that has been my way of working, and it's actually only now that I am actually working within such a firm framework of these types of spreads and these types of questions. So, without further ado, card number 1: How I help to build my community, and I get the 3 of Wands in the Mariel still and always. I discovered actually in this card, because I've seen this card before and I've had this card in draws, etc. I discovered that there's actually a pair of hands in the background right there. So there was like, see, there's always a collective element to everything. Even though personally I feel like, what is that? And how do I do anything? And how is there a community at all? Because that's where I come from, So this card, I suppose, it has the fire element in it. And what I do see is that I will always very passionately try to communicate with people, with different people. And I am reminded now of a small situation, is too big a word, a slight divergence between people, where there's actually me observing 3 men and how they are not, getting along among themselves. My husband has to deal with both of them and finds it really hard, because he doesn't really, he doesn't like to have to choose between either of them. And the other 2 are trying to yank him into their camp opposing the other guy, which is, of course, a very, very frequent type of situation in life, isn't there? It's always in the background, there's always that type of stuff going. There's always insecurity and power struggles and choose me instead of the other guy and that type of thing. So maybe that's what I'm seeing here. Maybe this is actually something I can link up with my recent experience. Because what I do is I talk to all of them and I try to make sense to all of them, that, and especially to my husband, of course, because he's the one that I am directly involved with. So this card also has to do with the snake in the middle, the Shakti energy, and there you go, with the fact that what helps me to build my community, or what helps me, what sort of informs the way I help build a community, is my own needs for harmony and collaboration, and each his own. Okay, I don't want to, I am just not in the being right business so much. I hope, I think so. But sometimes you just have to carve out a territory for, not for myself, but for him, for my husband, and for the work atmosphere that they're in. And so I tend to be rather proactive in that. I tend to, and if people, hey, there's the sun. Oh, that's the first time in weeks that I actually get a bit of light, you guys. So let's give the light into the tube. This is amazing. Yeah, so I kind of see how this works, but it's also rather a self-centered process for me still. So that makes sense. It makes sense to me that I invest most of my energies and my thoughts into what's close by and where I can actually have some sort of influence in whatever way. And I always try to protect people and make them feel safe at first, and preferably have them also develop a sense of freedom after that, if possible. I want everybody to be free, so that makes a lot of sense with the Three of Wands to me. Okay, number 2, how I contribute to the collective effort. And I get les amoureux, the lovers. And there's more red here, and the red is a bit of a theme because it comes out in my other cards as well, in some dosage. My partner, me and my partner of 32 odd years by now. End of this month, it will be 32 years. That's insane. I guess that's what I've always seen, and especially recently, is that us together, we are so much stronger than us separately. There's no comparison. It's not like we're twice as strong or 4 times. It's 100 times. We have some form of individual strength when we are in harmony. We don't have to be together the whole time. We can each do our own thing. Please, I mean, each your own space also. But we have to know where each other is, where the other guy is, and whether they're okay, and whether they're, getting on with things, and so on and so forth. So it's I'm quite surprised actually that my contribution to the collective world is my relationship to my husband. I'm not surprised. It makes tons of sense. And still, yes, I suppose yes, all the way. The next question, how I can help others with problem solving. A beautiful card. The Queen of Discs, Queen of Pentacles. So I have to be a woman about this. I have to be engaged and connected and practical. And I suppose what I tend to do these days, especially on the tube and, out from there, problem solving through, telling something about my own experience. So this is everything to do with physical experience to me. It has everything to do with the stuff that I have been through, and it does me the world of good to share that out there with you guys, what I have been through, and to sort of realize that at some point somebody is going to respond to it, which isn't even that essential to me. I don't need to get, tons of comments. I enjoy comments, of course I do, but I don't necessarily need to get the justification or anything, or to hear that I am right about anything. I don't care about that so much. I just like to share the experience. And if there is such a thing as a shared world, yeah, that I find that really comforting. And I suppose that is how we problem solve, is because somebody has another tale to tell, and you can gain little bits and nuggets of truth from that, and you sort of process it for yourself, and it's like this alchemy happening inside our persons, inside in the mind as well as in the emotions. And yeah, so nice card, really lovely so far. Okay spread, completely okay. Here we go again, because card number 4, how I nurture and teach younger people. It's the 9 of Swords again. So I went like, no, not you again, please don't. But I cannot escape from this. It's completely silly to try to escape from this, to deny this part, because it's also my own inner child. Queen Osset said it herself. The corn, the ears of corn that you are showing as a part of the ritual of Kwanzaa, the children are also our inner children. So I don't have ears of corn, I have acorns. 2 of them. They're rather special because they come from a special place where there's a sacred oak tree. It's a whole oak forest actually. So yeah, it's my connection to children, and to teach and nurture young people. I don't do, because I don't have kids. I don't ever really see kids. I used to be really scared of kids because inside of me was a very unhappy child. That I'm still trying to, sort of have in my consciousness nowadays, much more. And it's not over, and it's not completely done. And I think that there will always be an unhappy part of me around, quite close by. And all I can do is accept it and nurture that and support it and make it as comfortable as can be. But I realize a lot of the time these days that my parents, weren't really my parents, except that they were absolutely my parents, and I didn't get any others. And I don't know, there's been this quest all my life for protection and safety, and also some form of sense, so trying to make sense of very opposing factions and strife and all this stuff behind the stuff, and behind that and endless histories of this law. Yeah. So it's here again for a reason. Obviously, the 9 of Swords is it's been messing with me. So I can also see maybe that it messes with other people, and that in the end, the way I can best, share experiences with people, with kids also, is to, be there for them. If I feel that they need it, then I can relate. So isn't that great, really? So it's not a bad card. The 9 of Swords, it turns out, to me, is not a bad card. Huh. Okay. Card number 5. How others perceive... No. Yes, how others perceive my community efforts. I'm hesitating because I have my 2 answers next to each other, and they're rather related. How others perceive, okay? My community efforts, King of Discs, I get. So it goes beautifully, of course, with the Queen of Discs on the other side. And it's very tempting to go into all sorts of stories about symmetry and what have you, because there's actually this spread is really quite symmetrical, and there's the Nine of Swords right in the middle, and there's all sorts of going on like that. It looks like the whole thing is a thing of itself. It's the spread is coming alive again, which is freaky and scary and quite special and splendid. So people perceive my community efforts as King of Discs, King of Pentacles. It has probably everything to do with striving really hard to be a sovereign human being, whether I'm a female or not, and people don't really look at me as a woman, whatever that means, in society. I don't want to be seen as that type of woman necessarily, or whatever that means, I used to wear heels and wear makeup. I did, I swear. But I don't need it. I don't, it doesn't do anything for me, and it's mostly very uncomfortable, and eyes get sticky with mascara and all that stuff. And why bother? I wear earrings because I think that's funny, and I wear necklaces, and I try to have, reasonable clothes on and protect my body and be warm enough and that type of thing. So, very sensible, very horribly Dutch sensible way of approach. So I suppose in that way, what people see of me is really a bit on the masculine side, depending on where you look at, because I tend to wear, this type of, sturdy stuff and pullovers and boots and all that. So I'm not the feminine necessarily type, so I can see that. The next question, how others perceive my level of responsibility. That's another challenging one. It is the Tower. So that can mean quite a number of things, as far as I'm concerned. Either they think I have no sense of responsibility at all, or they think responsibility is what I talk about, and the way I talk about it, and the way I present it, to them feels like the end of the world. I think they're both true, because I've encountered both reactions from people, I suppose. I scare people with my talk about personal sovereignty, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be held accountable and have that type of freedom inside. And people think that's just, it isolates them, or whatever type of idea they have. So in that sense, it's the end of their world that they know or that they're comfortable with. I can understand that. And on the other end of the spectrum, I suppose that quite often, because I'm a stay-at-home, woman who lets somebody else do the work outside for the income and for the house she lives in, etc., there are people who really think I have no sense of responsibility at all, and I will just, do whatever I like and sleep late and think about my dinner, and that's it, really. And there's quite some truth in that as well. So, except nowadays, I think that people have seen the way I try to contribute and the way I try to help, which is mostly through my husband, because my husband wouldn't be able to do the work he does at the level that he does it if he didn't have my support at home. If I didn't do his laundry for him, if I didn't cook dinner for him, if I didn't drive his tiny ass around the country to visit the clients, which I do on a regular basis, and that type of stuff, I'm available. I am available to him more or less 100% of the time. And that entails looking after him psychologically, physically, when doing massage whenever that's needed, on and on. There's a lot of things that I do that other women would like to do for their husbands, but either they can't or they are away at their own day job. And they have kids. So, to other people, my life, I suppose, looks like I don't have kids, I talk about all sorts of crazy things. I make demands, which is nasty and impolite, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I can see the tower and all that. Certainly. Question number 7. An area of personal growth in my community efforts. And this is really one that got me puzzled, because I get the Knight of Cups. Normally, the Knight of Cups would be a card that I would associate with the way I used to be way back in the past, when I was, I don't know, 16 or so. I suppose there was a period in my life when I was not interested so much in science. I tried first to find some sort of, to do studies, or to, in high school also, I tried to go for the science side of things. In my program, my classes, you had to pick classes, and I had a scientific side. I was interested in science and math and that type of thing. Still am sometimes. I don't do anything with it anymore, really. But apart from that, there used to be a very a side of my life that sort of that was all about imagination, really, because I didn't have any proper relationships, not enough, and I didn't really learn from people, because I was taken away out of each context every couple of years or so at the most. And for a number of years, it was every year that I moved, and I didn't know my family well enough, and there were all sorts of structures and strategies within my close family that prevented me from learning anything from them. So I was really left to my own devices, and that's kind of this card is about somehow. That's what I feel at the moment. And there's a lotus flower coming out of this bowl full of what looks like blood. So there's the red, that's like I was saying in the beginning, there's all sorts of red color coming back in these cards. The only one that doesn't really have red as such is the Queen of Discs. She's got some type of poppies, flowers around her in the background. So, I don't see how this Knight of Cups, who tends to be seen as a rather lonely figure, the knights are often, striving for personal development, etc. I don't really get this card. I don't. I just, maybe I will. Maybe it'll, come to fruition at some point. Maybe I'll be able to figure it out. I just think of this as a very lonely card, and a card that has to do with just following these hunches and this intuition and all that type of stuff. And then I'm supposed to apply that in my community efforts. Okay. File not found. I suppose I can understand that from a mind point of view, but not really in the way I am. I will just have to look for it. I will just have to look for the content of this card. What I did do is I went and got my Rumi Oracle out again, because I thought it was a nice idea to have an Oracle card at the end of your Kwanzaa session. And I got this one that says the courage of your love. And if I link this up with the Knight of Cups, then I suppose it makes more sense. Then I can see more that I have to sort of blindly trust in relationships, have the guts to draw people in for the sake of what we can give to each other. Which is not exactly a new thought, but it's something I would have to really find a way in for myself to really connect. I do connect with people, but I connect to the extent that they let me, which isn't the same thing as what I would like. I would like to be friends with people I actually have physically in my life, other than my partner, who is my best friend ever. But, you know, I resent often that I don't feel connected enough to the place I live in and the people around me and the people close by, because because of the past, and I moved around 100 times, etc. So it's a bit harder for me to really connect to this place, but I have sort of never really learned to connect properly. So there's some advice here. And it has to do with honesty as well, with being honest and open about what it is that I want and what it is that I need, and be explicit and say it, tell it like it is, that type of thing. So let people in. Yeah. Yay. Okay. So that concludes Kwanzaa Day 3 for me. I will move on to the next bit now. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for being here. See you soon.